is way too close to what we're seeing in MH370 videos. 3 orbs, perfect triangle configuration around a central mass, polyhedral configuration. So this is what blew me away was, I don't know what I was doing. I think I was just asking AI some random questions, trying to understand more about the polyhedral configuration. And then I saw this. Visser's key insight was the total integrated amount of null energy condition violating energy, the amount of negative energy, can be made arbitrarily small by optimizing the wormhole's geometry. For example, in his polyhedral wormhole models, polyhedral wormhole models? What? Exotic matter can be concentrated in a thin shell along the edges, reducing the total negative energy required. Guys, this is the big rub. This is the thing. Like, boom. What has Eric W. Davis been saying about wormholes? We can make a thin shell of negative energy. So the answer is geometry. Can you guess the geometry of a polyhedral wormhole? It's a flat mouth. So flat like that. And why it's called polyhedral is because you have your shape over here and it's connected to another shape over here. The fourth orb hypothesis, anybody? So to get to this point, we've realized there's a connection between nukes and let's call it gravity manipulation. And what that specific connection is the H-bomb, the hydrogen bomb, the fusion bomb. How have they been covering this up? They've been covering it up because they figured out fusion. They figured out real fusion. And to figure fusion out, you have to understand 0-point energy. So they understood that how to produce fusion from the fusion bombs. And here's the secret I'm going to tell you right now. The secret is the geometry. It's the shapes. It's the sacred geometry, if you want to call it that. They understand the underlying geometry of the universe at the Planck scale, at the macroscopic scale, at every scale. The MH370 videos are telling us that the people who rule us understand something fundamental about the nature of reality itself. And that geometry, the spinning that they're doing around the plane that the orbs are doing, is tapping into the underlying framework of the quantum scale. My guess is that the same triangle that we're seeing at the macroscopic level is also what you see at the tiny level, at the small level. But more to come on that front. So what we've been revealing is actually thermonuclear secrets. And the final rub is they've produced aneutronic weaponry. Aneutronic. I didn't know what any of this shit meant a few days ago. Now I know what it all means. Aneutronic means that the thermonuclear reaction is not producing the damaging stuff like the heat, the radiation. It's aneutronic, meaning the energy is going into gravitational potential. It's going into space-time manipulation. That's the reason why we have this huge plane blipping out at this low energy requirement, this like small energy level. It's like plucking a guitar string and then the guitar string just reacts. That's fundamentally what they figured out. It's not complicated. It's actually very simple. Everything has an equal and opposite reaction. Okay. Before we do that, take a look at this. Guys, the letter to Ashton Forbes has to be accurate. Here you go.
Start with the tech. Oops. Foundation is not superconductivity. Superconductivity is a product of the technology. We have had this since the 1960s, and from that first day, we have used it to make sure that no one else can have it. So let's start with the tech. The foundation is not superconductivity. Superconductivity is a product of the technology. We have had this since the 1960s, and from that first day, we have used it to make sure that no one else can have it.
We've had this since the 1960s, and from that first day, we used it to make sure that nobody else can have it. That nobody else can have it. What did we have since the 1960s? H-bomb. We had the H-bomb since the 1960s, the fusion bomb. That letter is right. It's correct about the low energy phase transition as well. It's correct about superconductivity being a byproduct of the technology. If you make your plasma extremely dense, it becomes superconductive. Dense plasma focus. This is what, I mean, the only way that letter has to be real. How could it have guessed all the science that we're just now figuring out right now? And then the letter says, I've memorized this part, sacred geometry. Doesn't that remind you of something? Doesn't sacred geometry remind you of something? It certainly reminds me of those orbs spinning around the plane. That certainly is some purpose that they're doing, dancing around the plane like that. They've figured out how to just pluck a string, bloop, and make something disappear. That is extremely scary technology. And it explains why Trump has said that we have weapons that nobody understands. I mean, I feel like I'm doing a lot of research to understand it, and I still can't understand it. So tonight, hopefully, we're going to figure out a little bit more about it. DeVos, wow. I will address some of this before we dig into it. Ross, Deep State Cohort, suddenly thinks the Tic Tac was Lockheed Martin technology. Full-blown panic mode. You've exposed them. Yeah, what a 180. These guys are all, people I'm talking about the convention just a few weeks ago, like going, there's no way we figured out we reverse engineered any of the technology. And I'm going, you might want to check again. You might want to check again. And now I'm blowing up Lockheed Martin's spot. And now everybody's going, oh yeah, Lockheed Martin. It's, yeah, that was, yeah, of course it's that Tic Tac thing was Lockheed Martin's technology. Go back, go search my posts for Lockheed Martin. Go search my posts for Lockheed Martin. I've been calling this out pretty strongly for the last year, including pretty harshly recently. including pretty harshly with their whole compact fusion reactor thing, with their coherent matter wave beam patent. I mean, how much more do I have to call them out? Lockheed Martin, their compact fusion reactor. Sorry, guys, compact fusion reactor has been canceled. Where is it? Here it is. We found it. Turns out 2023, Lockheed Martin finally makes an announcement about this fusion reactor they've been working on for like 15 years or something like that. They go, yeah, just kidding. We're just going to confirm that 3 years ago, we just made a decision to stop doing it. What do you mean you just made a decision to stop doing it? Nobody in fusion stops. There's nobody in the fusion that's like, okay, we're done. We've given up. That doesn't happen. All these people are running these fusion companies that have produced nothing, and they just keep doing it. So you're telling me Lockheed Martin, who has basically unlimited money, they get that money from the government directly. They can do whatever the hell they want. They had a magnetic bottle that was 2,000 times more efficient than the public. This is just them quoting themselves. And they just decided this wasn't worth following up on. The potential for unlimited green energy for the whole world forever wasn't worth following up on. Yeah, I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it, especially because I'm watching their fusion reactor fly around in the sky, spinning around MH370. Now, why am I so convinced that it's Lockheed Martin? Why am I so convinced that what is? Because I know exactly what the orbs are now.
To understand the world, you need the truth. It's why we follow the facts wherever they lead, no matter how far we have to go.
There's a plasmoid inside there that's shooting jets out either side. They use those jets as propulsion. Have you guys seen the neutron stars where they have those huge beams of rays and they say, if that neutron star hits you or whatever, that quasar hits you, that beam of light will vaporize anything in its way? That's the same beam that they're using at the tiny scale. That's what they're using for propulsion. So if you want to know more about that, come check out Wednesday's live stream, because Wednesday's live stream, I found a number of video presentations by Eric Lerner, and he goes through all the fusion companies, why the certain people's stuff works, why the ones doesn't work, who's the best, et cetera, et cetera. It includes Peter Thiel's company, Helion Fusion, as well. Yeah. So check that out on Wednesday. The other drama thing that I saw was this thing about David Adair, I've never heard of him before. Here's a video clip of him. I mean, people say, oh, how have you never heard of so-and-so? Guys, I don't know anything about the community, the lore of the UFO community. I learn as I go, but I've maybe heard this guy's name, but I didn't know his story. So here you go. Here's his deal.
One different rocket engines of propulsion systems that you could leave this planet with. Two of them are just a solid and liquid fuel. I happen to just pick one out of the other 61 engines to pick from, and I manufactured a magnetic fusion containment engine, which
a what? Did you just say a magnetically contained fusion engine? Yeah, that's relevant to my interest. You just said the magic words, my friend. You just said the magic words.
In simple essence, it's able to create a magnetic field capable of holding a thermal fusion reaction inside, like a chunk of the sun contained in a magnetic bottle. And when you tap that power, it allows you to have tremendous thrust, which is what makes the rocket go forward.
So people don't understand why. Let me just close this. They don't understand why it can produce thrust. It actually produced thrust naturally. In fact, the thrust was the problem. The problem when they do the field reverse configuration on the plasma is that it produces a natural jet of exhaust out of it. And you can try to battle it and you can try to force it back on itself. But the answer is don't fight nature. Don't fight nature. Let nature do what it's going to do. So what they did was they said, oh, if we're going to have this beam, this star shooting a beam out of it, then what are we going to do? Use it for propulsion. Use it for propulsion. That's what they're doing. Somebody in my replies earlier said, too, that no, you couldn't do this because the electrons would be moving too quickly. They'd be moving too quickly. You can't control them. They have that solved too. Guys, just read the scientific papers. It's actually insane how all of the answers are just in there. What they're doing with the shock wave, like when the orb is moving forward, this forces the electrons into a highway where it gets tighter and tighter and tighter. And what this does is it slows them down naturally, forces them to slow down. So actually, when they're compressing these electrons down into this tube that they have, it actually slows the electrons. They're turning that thing into an particle accelerator slash decelerator. So they can control the flow of the electrons, therefore they can control the propulsion. It's actually just straight up incredible. The last thing I'll say before we jump into this, we got a lot to go over tonight, is that somebody says, well, Edward Teller would have won Nobel Prizes if he had found out that the fusion bomb was connected to 0-point energy or whatever. Do you guys understand how many Nobel Prizes the Orbs represent? The MH370 Orbs represent like, I don't know, a dozen Nobel Prizes. Yes, people are literally giving up Nobel Prizes to protect national security. In fact, I was just watching this other clip earlier where this guy is saying that so-and-so won the Nobel Prize in 2011 for dark energy. What the fuck are you talking about? You won the Nobel Prize for dark energy. Dark energy is not real. It's just a made-up fucking word. It doesn't actually mean anything. Dark energy means we don't understand how the universe expanded the way that it did, so we're just going to make something up. And literally, you'll literally hear brainwash NPC physicists go, that's the point of the Nobel Prize, is not knowing. No, that's definitely not the point of science. That's not the point of physics. That's not the point of the Nobel Prize. Not understanding something is not how science works. It's actually the exact opposite. When you don't understand how something works, that's when you throw out the theories that don't work based on that. And you come up with a new theory. You don't go, hey, we discovered that our view of cosmology is objectively wrong. Let's give somebody the Nobel Prize and just cover it up. Put a patch on that. Holy crap. Honestly, you might know what? Maybe I will take a Nobel Prize if we're just handing them out for making up dark energy, making up dark matter, basically just making up fake words for our lack of understanding of how the universe works.